Welcome to Top 10 Cars Club channel. In this video, we are going to talk about Ferrari assembly inside the car factory. So before starting this video, like this video, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for future updates. Ferrari's factory is part human and part machine. To create the iconic vehicles, the skills of people are combined with the precision of automation. Housed in the location originally chosen by company founder Enzo Ferrari in 1947, the 165,000 square meter plant, in Maranello, Italy, produces 8,400 cars a year and employs 1,300 workers. Every car that has ever borne the famous prancing horse was painstakingly assembled here, and Ferrari wouldn't have it any other way. Every Ferrari takes 3 months to complete. The first and most critical stage is the casting of the engine, which takes place in the plant's in-house foundry. The completed parts are then delivered to the assembly line, where 147 engines are hand-built every day. Once the engine is completed, 2 robots connect the Ferrari's valve mechanics. This is the only part of the process not done by hand. The robots work so closely together that we call them Romeo and Juliet, says Vincenzo Regazzoni, the company's chief manufacturing officer. Assembly line, technicians. In the 21,000 square meters Maranello line attach mechanical parts to the inside of each Ferrari, such as this 488 GTB, before adding wheels, bumpers and windscreens. Once the car reaches the end of the line, the interiors are installed and the engine is tested. V8 engine assembly. The V8 assembly line consists of 32 stations. Employees each work on one phase of the process. Ferrari's V8 engines are assembled separately to V12s. The latter are more complex, and require additional human attention, so get their own line. GTC4 Lusso TV8. This is a V8 engine destined for a Ferrari GTC4 Lusso T, a 4-seater model, that has rear-wheel drive, as opposed to all-wheel drive. Aimed at urban drivers, the engine isn't as loud as the larger V12, but it has been tuned to produce a similarly appealing sound. Factory mechanics. Each car frame, this is a 488 Spider, is held by an individual mechanical lift, made from steel hooks. These are used to move the car from one station to another, rotating the chassis, and automatically adjusting it to the height appropriate to the task. Door assembly. The doors of all Ferraris are made from aluminium, and are pressed, and cut at the Scaglietti factory in nearby Modena, 22 kilometers from Ferrari's main facility. The doors are only attached to a completed car body, once it has reached the end of the production line. Propulsion unit, where the engine, transmission and suspension systems are mounted onto the car's underbodies. The engine is removed from the automatic guided vehicle, AGV, that has transported it through the production line and attached to the car body. Internal mechanics. 2 robots, Romeo and Juliet, fuse the valve seats that will go into the engines, a job too intricate for humans. Romeo picks up cylinder heads and warms them with compressed air. Juliet dips aluminium rings into liquid nitrogen. Some little-known facts about Ferrari assembly line. Ferrari assembled 10,131 cars in 2019. Ferrari once set a limit of 7,500 cars per year, as its production maximum to maintain the exclusivity of the supercar brand. However, the limit has increased in recent years. When the company released its 2019 financial results in February of this year, the numbers revealed a total of 10,131 Ferrari vehicles were produced by year's end. The total production exceeded the manufacturing total for 2018 by 9.5%. Customers can customize their Ferrari during assembly. Although it usually takes up to 2 years for a buyer to take delivery of a customized Ferrari, the tailor-made program permits the new owner to personalize every component of a car, including, but not limited to, interior trims and finishes, various accessories, and tires. However, it is doubtful a buyer of the Ferrari 812 Superfast, equipped with a 6.5-liter V12 producing 788 horsepower, and 529 pound-feet of torque would substitute the engine for a 4-cylinder. A Ferrari requires 3 weeks to completely assemble. Although the assembly process for one Ferrari car takes about 3 weeks, the manufacturing of some of the components takes much longer. Counting each manufacturing process, the engine casting, at the in-house foundry being the most critical, every Ferrari takes about 3 months to complete. However, customer delivery is another issue and can take up to 2 years after an order is placed. The Ferrari factory has its own aluminum foundry. If you want something done right, do it yourself. To ensure the highest quality materials for manufacturing the heart of every Ferrari sports car, the engine, the company built its own foundry. The procedure begins with aluminum ingots melted in a furnace. The resultant molten raw material is then poured into molds to form the cylinder block, cylinder heads, crankcase, and valve casings. A Ferrari engine crankshaft takes 25 days to manufacture. The crankshaft is the most important part of any engine, requiring a complicated and precise process to take the initial, semi-finished form to the final product. Rough machining, heat treatment, boring, grinding, and the nitriding process requiring several days, all contribute to the rotating shaft with main bearing journals, connecting rod journals, and counterweights. Fitting the turbos is the last engine assembly procedure. In the engine assembly area, all the components are added, including the cylinder blocks, heads, crankshaft, timing chains, and the electrical system. At the final engine assembly station, the twin turbines are mounted, and then the completed engine goes to the test bench. An initial test cycle is conducted, after which the transmission is mated to the engine, and the final verification checks are performed. Mechanical lifts move each car from one station to another. Ferrari first used the assembly line process in 1958 to make the 250 GT. By 1972, the company had implemented twin assembly lines to produce the 246 GT and the 365 GTC-4. Workers that assembled the cars were required to move the cars down the line manually. Today the car frames are held by individual mechanical lifts for assembly, moving each vehicle from one station to the next. The height and orientation are automatically adjusted to facilitate each assembly task. Ferrari bodywork constructed at the Carrozzeria Scaglietti in Modena. The vehicle chassis and bodywork of Ferrari vehicles are constructed at the Carrozzeria Scaglietti in Modena. Both are painted and finished at a separate building on the Maranello complex, before being delivered to the assembly building. Next door, the completed engine and gearbox are tested before arriving at the assembly building, where they are installed into the bodies along with selected seating material and any custom inserts. The last Ferrari body panels made by hand were the boxer models. According to Michael Dregny, author of Inside Ferrari, a book that describes the Ferrari production history through the 50s to the 90s, the last Ferrari cars to have handcrafted body panels are the boxer models. The boxer body panels were formed by stretching them over wooden bucks, and beating them into shape by technicians. To meet the high demand for vehicles and produce larger quantities, starting with the dyno model, Ferrari implemented machine-produced body parts. V8 and V12 cylinder cars are produced along separate assembly lines. Although Ferrari now produces over 10,000 vehicles per year, the volume is still a small number compared to other car manufacturers like Ford, that makes more than 350 million vehicles per year. Each vehicle is still custom built. The specifications are written on a document that travels with the car along the assembly course for technicians' reference. The V8 and V12 cylinder cars have their own separate assembly lines, because each station on the V8 line requires an average of 1/2 hour of work, while each V12 station needs closer to an hour. A single engine technician builds the V12 engine. In 1947, Enzo Ferrari equipped his first road car, the 125S, with a 1.5-litre V12 engine that produced 118 bhp. Today, V12 engines are still thought to be the heart and soul of Ferrari. While the assembly of V8 and V6 engines is partially automated, the engines move from technician to technician through the various stations. V12 engines are assembled by a single technician. He or she follows the V12 to each station and is solely responsible for its assembly. The assembly line uses autonomous vehicles. Automated guided vehicles (AGV) on an assembly line substitutes for typical physical structure, such as conveyors, floor chains, moving mats, and overhead cranes. The Ferrari assembly line in Maranello uses 8 autonomous vehicles. Guided by a magnetic path on the floor, the AGVs move powertrains and vehicle cockpits between stations. Perhaps, they are another example of automation creeping into the Ferrari assembly process. Ferrari Assembly Paint Shop. Automation is not only found in the Ferrari engine assembly shop, but the paint shop is almost entirely mechanized. No longer are car bodies hand spray painted by a technician. Painting productivity and quality have been enhanced using robots. First, body shells get an anti-corrosive layer, and then they are treated to automatic priming, painting, and baking processes. Ferrari assembly plant, one of Europe's best places to work. Ferrari created a program called Formula Uomo, which focuses on employees' personal well-being and social involvement. The program features medical checkups for employees and their children, special preventative medicine programs, and participation in company events. As a result, Ferrari was named one of Europe's best places to work, and in 2019, it made the Forbes list for World's Best Employers. Ferrari's commitment to employee training programs are offered by many corporations worldwide, and Ferrari is no exception. The company has made it a focus with a commitment to education, involving both Italian and international universities. Ferrari also offers its employees specialist training programs and work experience stints outside of the country. In past years, over 85% of Ferrari employees have availed themselves of company training courses, including managerial and professional skill building. The Ferrari factory was bombed during World War II. When World War II broke out in 1940, Enzo Ferrari was forced to manufacture war-related products for Mussolini's fascist government. Following an Allied forces bombing of the Modena factory, Ferrari relocated to Maranello, where the assembly plant remains to this day. At the end of World War II, Ferrari began making cars bearing his name and founded Ferrari S.p.A. in 1947. What do you think of our video? Which of the information you find most interesting? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.